the amusing side. We had plenty of technical difficulties along the way, and unfortunately, we are 50 minutes late for the start. My apologies for this. Anyway, uh, again, greetings and welcome to one and only Anna Rudolf, and I'm looking forward to see what she is gonna throw at me.
A lot of difficult positions,
Yes.
Nikola. And thank you so much for fixing it. In the end, you managed to find a way to start our stream. It really wasn't about your setup or anything. It's just maybe a glitch, but we were getting really unlucky with the technical part.
Yes, you know what they say about there is mechanic's car is always in shop, so we were basically transitioned to a laptop, so that's why this looks a little bit different. Anyway, I think your story is going to have to dedicate some time to figure out what is the glitch and why is this happening. So
Mm.
anyway, what's also very nice is from a program standpoint. Hey, Hazelot, thank you for joining us. My apologies for being so late. The channel has actually just reached 1,000 followers,
Well, congratulations!
which is wonderful. And with 1,000 followers, we have a special event, which is going to be a subscription simul, which is going to be announced and probably happen on Sunday.
Oh,
So that's the big event for this. Thank you, cute little Hufflepuff. Thanks for joining us. I'm sorry we are so late. Welcome, guys. This is a slightly delayed edition of Nikola learns chess or Nikola troubleshoots his setup with anyway, we sorted it out. Takes Lusacho 94. Anyway, since so without much further ado, and obviously welcome to everyone. Let's see what Anna has in mind for us.
Sure. Are you ready, Nikola, for another difficult session?
I'm as ready as ever going to be, which means I'm not ready at all. And before we have announced there, Anna has a announcement to make about her. She's starting a new. Hey, Hoff Believer. Hey, Glamity Jane. Hey, Ulon. Thank you guys for joining us. Sorry for the hassle. Anna's starting tomorrow at 8 p.m. British time. Anna is starting a weekly series for beginners.
I'm not sure it will be weekly, but we will have the first session tomorrow, and then we will see. But my idea is that my community will be chess champions. No, actually, they were asking me to help them understand the basics of chess. I'm so happy to see so many of you, Little Hufflepuff, Lisa, Jean, Hubbeliever. Hubbeliever and Hedgehog, they know how to play chess and they are very good at chess. But the rest of my community, there's a lot
I'll
of
persuade your hedgehog. Don't worry, it's gonna be.
yes. I already have a quite a big percentage of my community that come from the gaming environment and non-chess players, and they are keen on learning how to play chess. So tomorrow I'm training my community to beat their friends and family at chess.
Okay. Yeah, we don't read rules exactly. All right. So I think I'm ready for what you have in store. So let's do it.
Sure, we're gonna be looking at this game mainly from the white perspective, and I'm hoping
Okay.
that it's an opening that you play. I didn't have that much information on the paired defense from
Okay.
your side, but I was guessing, hopefully I guessed it right. If not, we will still look at this game because it's gonna be a difficult one. Do you play like this, Nicola?
Okay. I actually had a stream about Pierce defense.
Really? I should have seen it.
Yeah. And hey, Megamaniac, Helen, Media. Hi guys. This is Austrian attack.
Yes.
Okay.
Do you play this against the
Actually,
peers?
I play something slightly different, which is basically starts with a bishop e3 and then
Mm,
f3. It's basically
okay.
150 attack.
I see. I
That's
was
it.
hoping you play this because I saw this game and I thought that it fits your style. So, regardless of not being the exact same opening, I think this will be a game that suits your attacking style, and the complexities that we're going to go through are hopefully very instructive. That's why I wanted to choose this game for
No,
today.
I'm quite familiar with this. I actually streamed the very first game, which was the originated the Austrian attack played by Rudolf in
Hmm.
18 something. So I'm familiar with this. That's right up my alley, no problems.
Awesome. So we're gonna be looking at this, but mainly the middle game. We are not that we never really focus on the opening. It's simply to have structures that usually Nikola would play anyway. That's why I was hoping he plays this exact line too. But I think the structure will be useful. And here's the first thinking moment. Even though this is still theory, but I prefer that you don't know the theory here. I just want to rely on your intuition. How would you continue here in terms of, like, you just need to make a normal move? There's nothing really much to it, but what setup would you aim for? Would you be looking at pawn pushes with d5 or e5? Would you be looking at castle kingside, castle queenside? How would you set up your pieces? Just a general idea.
Sure. Normally I play against Kurt's defense is Newcastle Queenside.
Mm-hmm.
This is slightly different setup. This is actually a different setup from the Austria attack I normally play. The obviously white needs knights to do something with its king. Hey, Lally, my friend, thank you here, thank you for joining us. Thank you, Daniel, as well. So this is one of those situations when there is this annoying knight jump on b4, and
Mm-hmm.
there is couple of potential breakthroughs. I think the black normally, if my plan is to castle queenside, which I think it is, I don't think I'm losing a tempo if I actually play a3 here,
Mm-hmm.
because that move is useful to prevent some sort of a pawn pushes later down the line. So that's one option. Another option is to, basically, hey Kalia, thank you for the sub. That's very greatly appreciated. Kalia is a fellow streamer and dear friend. She's also she streams actually whenever I'm in my office, I see Kalia streaming. So
Hmm.
yeah, there we go. Anyway, so the question I have here for myself is, in Austrian attack, normal Austrian attack begins by pushing the pawns on the king side. I think I can. So a3 is another option. Another option is to get the bishop developed. I'm not sure the bishop d3 is actually the right move in this position, to be very frank, but that's
You mean now bishop e3, or they already placed bishop? You
d3,
mean?
yeah. All right, so a3 is one candidate move. Bishop e3 is another. The we can also basically play h3 with an idea of playing g4
Mm-hmm.
and then g5. So that's another option. I think playing bishop is that jump on b4. I would probably play a3, just a prophylactic move in this position.
Hmm.
Very frankly.
A3 has been played a couple of times. I'm looking at the reference database, and
Yeah.
basically all the moves you mentioned have been tried. A3, bishop e3, h3 have all been played in games, in a couple of games. The two main options, though, are one I think that you wouldn't play ever, castle kingside, and I was hoping you wouldn't say this, because even if this is one of the main moves, I think that's not your style. It's not why you push those pawns so that then you castle kingside. Totally, it's one of the main lines, if not the main line. I'm just saying
Yeah.
that I don't think this is Nicola's exact style. I also think that you should go for castle queenside for your attacking chess, and how that will be an even more dynamic
Oh,
position.
and Anna, just for everybody's amusement, we just lost the cameras.
Oh no! After all the work you put into
This
this.
is a completely different setup. The only thing that replicates is the Streamlabs OPS, so that actually helps
Oh,
troubleshooting. All right, so let's
oh
do
no.
this real quick. I'm gonna do what we did before. I'm
Will
gonna
I join you again?
I'm gonna stop my video
Yes.
and then I'm gonna restart it and hopefully hope that that will just go OBS. If not, we're gonna stop the meeting real quick and then restart it. So
Sure.
let's
You
do
let me know.
that. Alright, so just bear with us guys for exactly one, millisecond. Actually, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna leave the meeting
Mm-hmm.
and then I'm gonna rejoin it and I don't care about the recording. So just bear with us while I'm doing some more technical troubleshooting. Alright, so so I'm joined
Oh.
with audio and that should, okay, let's see what's happening with this thing now. Alright, well, okay, that's here. And Zoom meeting should pop right now. Let's see. If not, we are gonna have, and we have the same problem as we had before.
Oh no.
Oh well. All right, let me
Uh,
do this one more time.
sure. Do you need me to leave the meeting and come
Yes,
back?
please. Yeah.
Sure.
All right. Sorry, guys. Technical difficulties are very much fun. Anyway, and since the same thing is happening across two different computers, I think it's probably safe to assume that the real problem is with my OBS setup. Okay, no, I don't need this. And let me start Zoom again. All right. Let's see if that solves the problem. Okay, and join the audio. Let's admit Anna. And
Hello?
we can hear it, but the video is still not there.
Oh no.
All right, so
We can put up two pictures or
yeah, so
a
what we're
sketch
gonna
of
do,
a drawing.
and you forgive us for doing this, since I don't want to keep troubleshooting this in front of you guys, I'm gonna do this over the weekend. What we're gonna do, we're gonna have two very nice pictures of me and Anna. So I'm gonna do that right now. And in the meantime, let's focus on the game, which is what everybody cares about anyway.
Sure, I will tell the viewers in the meantime how Castle Kingside here is the most popular move.
Okay.
But I was hoping that Nikola wouldn't say it for what I said earlier, that I think he should really aim for Castle Queenside. There's so many different ways in which you can play this position, and I think everyone should try to find variations, lines in each and every opening that suits the most their own playing style. So for Nikola, I do think that aiming for Castle Queenside is the best way to play this opening. And it's not that Castle Kingside is any worse or better. It's just about the playing style of Nikola that I really think he should aim for opposite side castling. Bishop e3 is popular, but the second most popular move is actually a very direct one, and that's a pawn push in the center, pawn to e5. So this was played in the game, but since this is still theory, I don't really want to go into details on why this move. Imagine there are hundreds, if not thousands, of games for this position. So after those many games and engine analysis, people come to the conclusion that e5 in this moment is a good move, and you can choose between taking with the d pawn or the f pawn. And once again, it depends a lot on the player's style, which one you aim for. In this game, the grandmaster with the white pieces, this is a game between two Russian grandmasters, by the way. White took back with the f pawn, after which black plays knight to h5 and bishop e3 is a natural developing move. Once again, we are aiming for castle queenside. Soon we will have to reach a critical position though after f6, so I'm gonna wait for Nikola to join me, but you guys can start thinking about how would you react to this pawn push. So this is the first critical moment in the game. Black has just played f6 with the clear intention of capturing our pawn on e5. So what do we do? Can we defend it? Shall we trade on f6? Will we just leave it? What do you think shall white do in this position?
Okay, and I'm actually listening as you were saying this, so I'm gonna wait for our chat to to add its input, and let's see, what would I do here? Well, so the question is, after f6, what is it that white should do, correct?
Yes, and we could keep our system of what would you do in a bullet or blitz game. So what's your intuition saying? And then if you would change that move or not.
Okay, if I play my... Okay, so the option number one is basically to... there is a d5 push, that's one option.
Mm-hmm.
Then there is also an option of so pushing d5.
Mm-hmm.
There is an option of you can't play g4 or anything very aggressive. We can't really not do anything because that's going to be a problem. We can give a check on c4, though it might be actually be useful because what exactly is black going to do? So that's another option. We can basically ignore that, and no, it doesn't make sense. What I was thinking is to just basically leave the pawn as it is and just play queen d2 with an idea of playing bishop h6.
Mm-hmm.
And lastly, let me think for a second. Last option is to... okay, I need to do this again. I captured not a very flattering image of Anna. All right, let's try this one more time. All right, so here is my thought. Really, am I really better in this position? I think I am.
Why do you think white is better?
It has more space, it's much better developed, and it's basically a castle away from being able to attack.
True. Very good.
So one plan is to push d5 and e6. Another plan is to actually take. We can also take on f6, right? And then play then play queen d2 and bishop h6. Which actually may be probably the safest option. So, because this pawn is not really threatened, and I don't think it is beneficial for black to take it with a bishop, because then bishop hc comes with a tempo h6. So you're asking me what would I move here? I would, after d5, white has knight e5.
Yeah, correct.
So we can't, that's really doesn't do us much good. Bishop c4 e6 is a blockade, or even king h8. I'm not sure that's really beneficial for white here. So I'm probably gonna probably take. and then I would probably take and then play queen d2,
Mm-hmm.
and then go from there.
Very good. Yes, everything that you have analyzed makes a lot of sense. Though it does make sense to think about whether to include the check or not. It makes sense to think about sacrificing the pawn by pushing d5. But as you said, probably the simplest is to capture and then continue with your idea, queen d2 and castle queenside. So we haven't sacrificed any material. We still have more space. This d4 pawn is really strong. The knight on c6 is clumsy. The knight on h5 is clumsy. The bishop on g7 is now blocked by its own pawn. Black can also, of course,
I'll
yeah.
fix that in a second.
Black can also, of course, think about other captures, but it doesn't seem to help. Even if Black takes back with the knight, that looks ugly for different reasons. Now the e7 pawn is isolated, and this whole setup just doesn't really add up for Black. So in this position too, I think he would play in a similar way: queen to d2, castle queenside. White has a very healthy position with more space, more active pieces, and this is only after 10 moves. 10 moves have been played, and Black has already weakened their structure, and it's worse, clearly worse. So in this position, after e takes f6, Black took back with the pawn, and queen d2 was indeed played, as you mentioned.
Okay.
In this very moment, let me catch up with the game in my database. Black decided to go king h8 to step out of potential checks. I don't know if it was that much needed. Interestingly, it did happen in another game too, I think. Let me just check my notes here because I wrote about this in my
I have a question.
analysis. Queen
Was
d2.
this game played?
This was played in 2018, but it's a rapid game. Maybe that's why king h8 happened, because
Okay.
it's not a classical game. But two strong grandmasters, both of them over 25, but 25-62. The player with the black pieces, Dmitry Bocharov from Russia, and with the white pieces, Dmitry Froyanov from Russia. So both of them 25-50, their rating approximately, and it's a recent game. Yes, I'm not that sure that king h8 is that much needed. I was looking a little bit at bishop g4 or something to develop the pieces at least, but I think he would continue the same way, castle queenside, and I'm not really sure the bishop on g4 helps that much if you are going to push on the king side anyway. But in any case, king h8 happened in the game, and we will be looking at how you would handle this position. So let's take a look at this from White's perspective again.
Yeah.
King
Okay.
h8.
Yeah. Just one very quick clarification. We gave up on troubleshooting the cameras for today's session, so you have two pictures of us. I know it's a lame solution, but I would really like to get this session. Otherwise, we would have to cancel. And for whatever reason, this is happening across more than one computer. So yours truly is gonna have to do some troubleshooting. Yeah, my apologies. But what matters is the chessboard works and you can hear us.
Yeah, imagine if the chessboard didn't move, then it would be just a blindfolded session.
We can do that at some point. Okay. So let's. So
what do you do after king h8? A very, very simple question, I guess, but we still need a move. How do you continue, Nikola?
This move is to castle.
Yeah?
Obviously, castle queenside.
Yes.
For rather obvious reasons. Another option is to follow up on the original plan and play, bishop on h6, which may run into some theory with regards to this particular pawn.
Mm-hmm.
So that's number two. And I really don't see any other move that shows any promise. I mean, moving knight to e4 doesn't appear to be very appealing. But hold on a second. What happens if we get to Duchess and push g4? Where is that knight going?
Can you push g4 now?
No, because the bishop on c8 is going to take it, but and I can't really play g4 immediately, but I can play h3 because then the knight is going to come here. But that's a motive that's definitely there. Is it possible to play rook g1 and then actually threaten g4? Possibly. All right, so to narrow this down, and let's get rid of the arrows. Realistically, the options are castle, prepare a g4 in some way, shape, and form, or play bishop h6.
Yeah.
Actually, I think bishop g6 is perfectly safe because if we calculate real quick, bishop h6, you know, he can't take, it's defended. Well, it's only defended once. I don't think we're in terrible rush here to proceed. It's not like black has any specific threats.
So what's your intuition saying?
My intuition say that that it makes sense to castle here. Castle one.
Yeah, absolutely. The e file is open. Our king is still in the middle of the boards, and we wanted to castle queenside. So very good. There's absolutely no need to go against the natural continuation.
Yeah.
Natural and strong. Castle queenside. And I think one reason now I was, as you were explaining the options, I was thinking king h8 actually may be against those ideas with bishop h6 because in those positions, if the king was on g8, black would not be able to capture the pawn on d4.
Yes.
So for instance, let's take a look at, just to show it to the viewers, because I know that Nikola understands what I'm saying, but I want to just make a random move. I don't think that white would try to go for this in case there's a check or anything, but just to present the idea that you sometimes want that king out of trouble in case there are tactical issues. But wait, this is not working here because of knight e6, and it doesn't work with a different move order because the queen is protecting the c4 square. So yeah, I think it was a safe move, but maybe wasn't that much needed in that moment.
Yeah, I didn't calculate all of this. That just looked like a way. I mean, there are much more useful moves for black to make instead of
Yes,
not
I agree.
not I mean, just rook e8 for crying out loud.
Yes,
So
very true. I agree with you. So king h8 happened, may not be needed, may not be the best, but it was a rapid game, and it ended up being played castle queenside. In this position, black continued with a knight to b4. I only found one other game in the database where black played bishop to g4. It was also 2,500 players, so really strong players, but the other game was way older, 1992. So I don't think we can claim this is still theory. It just randomly happened in the same position in another game. Knight b4. Now, once again, a critical moment. What is this knight doing? Do we care about this capture on b3? Do we not care? What's your intuition saying, Nikola? And then let's think further.
I really don't want to give up that bishop.
Why not?
Because it's very well placed, it's dispensable for the attack, and it's very strong, and so on and so forth.
Very good.
Yeah. On top of it, it has at least two very good places. I mean, bishop c4 is a natural move here because it's like a dagger into black king's heart. Another option is bishop e2 is meh move. So I think I think natural move here is bishop c4, and I don't see any disadvantages.
Yeah, bishop c4, natural, strong, and as you said, we want to keep that bishop. So
Yeah.
indeed, bishop c4 is the strongest. Very good job. After bishop c4, black played finally a developing move.
Played, okay.
Yes, and it's the best move. Black is developing and attacking the c2 pawn. What do we do? First of all, your intuition, what does it say? And then let's think further.
Okay. We can play bishop d3, which is a prophylactic move, which is also a safe move to play.
Yes.
Another option is to basically tell to black, forget about it, and follow the plan with bishop on h6. Another option is to, play h3 and threaten g4. And if there is another option, I don't see it.
I think you summed it up pretty well. Bishop b3 is what was played in the game, and I think it's a natural and good move because the bishop is well placed there. It protects the c2 pawn, and then you can continue with your attack with bishop h6 or aiming for g4. Funny enough, the engine always teaches us a thing or two. So even though the grandmaster with the white pieces played it and it's a good move, the engine finds a bit more precise move by saying that the c2 pawn isn't as hanging as it seems and makes this move. So let's try to make some sense out of this.
Oh, okay.
What's the story here if black takes on c2? We'll need to calculate this.
Okay.
Let's say bishop takes c2.
Which is almost forced. Okay, bishop takes c2. I don't think we want to give the rook away. So we can play rook f1, I guess.
After bishop takes c2, we need to move the rook. We don't have many squares for it.
And that bishop doesn't really have that many places to go to, does it? Or rook e1 is fine.
Yeah, rook e1 or rook f1.
So bishop is basically trapped.
Yes. Because if it goes back to f5...
Yeah, g4.
g4.
So basically black cannot afford to take on c2.
Yes, because what's white's threat in this position?
Well, there are two threats. There is a threat of g4 that's been hanging against that particular knight since time immemorial.
Yeah.
There is also a threat of a3.
Yes, and both of them would win a piece.
Yeah.
Very good.
All right, well, let's give, I'm the one who criticizes the engine many times. Let's give engine some credit. This engine was, this is actually the right move.
Yeah. I was really impressed with the detail because later, if it's rook g1 and queen c8, for instance, to stop g4, then it ends up playing bishop b3, but it claims that the inclusion of the rook on g1 and the queen on c8 favors white. So it ends up defending the pawn if it has to, but in a position where white thinks that it favors them to include the rook on g1 and the queen on c8. Another thing, yeah, absolutely. I think a little more mess is if the pawn is taken with the knight. So let's think about this for a second. What do you do here? And there's no concrete winning line here for white or anything. It's more of a long-term thing, I believe. Unless, actually, no, wait a second. I'm saying silly things. I'm saying silly things. Yes. Tell us your intuition. I was seeing ghosts here.
Can't we just play g4?
Yeah, we can. I was surprised for a second because G4. Yeah, it has to be winning, but it wasn't the best move by the engine, and I don't understand now why. It wins a piece.
Yes, right?
Yeah. Can you tell me then, Nikola, why I included this line in our analysis? Because I was. Oh, I think. Wait a second. No, G4, Bishop F2. It says both are winning, but I'm convinced by what you said. This wins the piece immediately. Why would this?
Well, I mean, I guess you don't want to give that bishop away because
Yeah,
it's very important for the attack.
yeah. The thing is, this isn't as clear because I went on to analyze this line with Queen D7, which does prevent G4. So then it ends up saying moves like Knight H4 to
Yep,
threaten to take and
yep.
then take here. But the knight can go away now, and then after this, black can take back with the pawn to save the knight. So it's not a piece up. It looks terrible, but it's not a piece up.
We could play h3 instead, right?
Um,
Instead of knight to h4.
in this position,
Yes.
yeah, I
Uh,
think G4 immediately, as you said, was even clearer. I give you the credit, not to the engine.
Hey, Mega, sorry, we had the same problem on two different laptops, two different computers. So we decided that instead of canceling the stream and troubleshooting, I apologize for this very humbly to you guys. We'll figure that out for the next stream. We
Yeah,
want to keep the session going, and we figured that what matters are voices and board, and we'll worry about the other stuff later.
yes, the chess pieces are moving, and Nikola has found yet another winning line. H3, I think, is stronger, yes, than knight H4 and G4 in the moment you said. So yeah, this is this is then all clear. And Queen C8, Bishop B3. We understand the difference in the game. However, Bishop B3 was played, so this was just to see a tiny bit of a difference if that move was included. What do we do after Bishop B3? Black went knight to C6. I'm not really convinced that this is the best attempt. I do think white is better, but let's try another move first. I'm gonna play c6 against you, Nikola, and I'll need you to tell me how would you set up your pieces, and what are we playing for? Intuition, and then I give you more time.
Okay, so we're basically preparing an outpost on d5. All right. So the page, Inca, thank you for the follow. That's very greatly appreciated. All right. So the idea of the c6 is to put a knight to d5,
Mm-hmm.
and where it
And to have some more control here. Yes, you're right. Like whether with the knight or just so that white doesn't
yeah.
just push d5.
Okay, and that's actually a fairly strong move because from the d5 it controls e3, blocks d5. It's actually changes the nature of the position. And all of a sudden, the bishop on e5 becomes a monster. Hey, Buffalo Johnny, thank you for the follow. That's very greatly appreciated. So the question here is, uh, now there is this motive to play bishop h6 that's been on the board since forever.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, which actually now might be a good time to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's number one. Number two, what's number two? Number two is actually for white to push d5.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
How would you execute that?
Uh, well, I can just push it and then play because white still has a lead in development.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
There is always an option of um, let me think for a second.
Sure.
The strongest black piece is actually the bishop on f5. I can play bishop on h3, h4, and ask the question, where's the bishop going?
So h3 to push g4,
Um,
or a different move. Sorry.
okay, so yeah, no, I lost myself. So option number one is to play this.
Yes.
Option number two is to play this.
Uh-huh.
Option is to play this, and then this is also an option.
I see. Yeah. Which one would you play in a bullet or blitz game?
And I can also play the fabled rook g1 again.
Yes, true. We have learned from the engine.
In a bullet game, I'm going for a mate. I'm playing bishop h6.
Mm-hmm.
If I have a little bit more time to think, I may play rook g1. This might be too much of a commitment to play d5.
Mm-hmm.
Knight on h4 is feels slow.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the answer, I guess. I'm playing. So bullet is this. Longer time control, I may play rook g1.
Yeah, I think your intuition is right with bishop h6 and rook g1. Those are some of the best moves here for white. D5 also is possible. I was curious if you would go for this because in this position, for instance, would you take with the bishop or with the queen on d5?
Good question. Am I think it's in my interest to keep queens on the board.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll take with the bishop.
Yes. Yeah, I was curious if it would be tempting for you to play that endgame, which seems to be better for white. But that's the question: do you want to get into an endgame, or force an endgame here, or still play for what seems to be the main factor that our king is safer and healthier than the black king?
I think the answer to that question is somewhat obvious. So yes.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
yeah, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is good too, but it does simplify the position. The question is always, even if we play d5, when is the best moment to push d5? So I do agree with you that bishop h6, rook g1, they all make sense. I was also looking at queen f2, which is a bit of an odd move, but that perhaps gives more strength to d5 if we get to play d5. A lot of interesting options, but I think you have named some of the best ones. So
Okay.
I'm gonna give you there a 10 out of 10 for that solution.
Thank
We
you.
go back to the game, in which once again you will need to decide how to continue.
Okay. Yeah, one of the big disappointments about the cameras being acting up is that I was hoping to demonstrate a little bit of hats.
Oh no, I'm missing out of the
We're
head
missing out
swap.
on the hats, but okay, well, I need to troubleshoot this because this camera has been through an for some time and across multiple computers, so we need to
Yes.
figure that out. Anyway, well, there is all the bishop h6 has been on the plate for quite some time. There is always an option of playing rook g1 yet again.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, both of those look perfectly playable.
Mm-hmm.
I can even play d5 now,
Mm-hmm.
though that basically would allow black to play knight e5 and then the bishop on b3 is blocked.
Mm-hmm.
I would probably actually play rook g1.
Very good. Rook g1 and d5 are the two strongest. I think they are similar in strength. The rook g1 was played in the game. d5 is also a really promising move. But as you said, one needs to calculate how to deal with knight to e5. If you were to have this position, would you take on e5 or would you play something else? I'm curious. We're gonna continue with rook g1 afterwards because that's just as strong, I think, as d5.
Yeah, I don't want to take on e5
Hmm.
because that opens the rook up, opens
Yeah,
bishop up. I would probably play knight d4.
very good. Yeah, by taking can make sense in this position as you compared. Why open up the f5 for that rook
Yeah,
unnecessarily? And this knight is really strong on d4, attacking the f5 bishop, about to hop onto e6 and create a pass pawn in case there's a trade. So knight d4 is a really strong move, and this position is very good for white as well.
yeah, and that's a monstrous pawn, right?
Yes, yes. It's very difficult to prevent that in this position too, because white is threatening to take the bishop and double pawns and weaken the black king further, or knight e6. So I don't even think there's a good move here for black to prevent everything.
No, and just a whole list of threats, and then we're gonna be so play here. This, and this are all under attack,
Yes.
and you can probably can move one of those pieces, but not all of them. So
Yeah.
black will have to take on e6, and then after this line is being controlled by white.
Yeah.
It, it's an ugly position, and
Very good. Yes.
if you move the queen, then there is an option of taking the bishop, and then this check, and yes, no, that no, all right, yeah,
Very good. Yeah, those are all the best lines. And d5, you said, as one of the moves, and rook g1 is the other. So both of them are strong, different ideas, but both are really strong in this position, because this move is threatening something immediately winning again. So g4 is not just the fork, but the h5 knight is trapped. So
yeah.
double trouble again. The only way black could deal with it is by placing the bishop on g4. What's next here, Nikola? Intuition, and then let's think further.
Okay. Well, okay. Well, I've been thinking about uh, playing bishop h6 forever, but I still can't play it now because that
Why is that?
can I or can I not? No,
Just asking.
it's not pleasant because takes. I'm just thinking loud.
Sure.
Takes, takes, takes on d5. Okay, sorry. So the real line is this, and so basically play on h6.
Mm-hmm.
Black takes, and whether this is interceded. Oh yeah, but you can actually intercede. I was worried that black can play f5, and all of a sudden this bishop is quite strong.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, hmm. Yeah, so bishop, basically, you're right. This is playable.
Mm-hmm.
This is still playable.
Yes. A shout out to Jen Shahada just joining us. So happy to see you, Jen. Hope you're having
Hey,
a
Jen,
great day.
and it's always good to see you, Jen. Welcome here. We put pictures of each other because we were having troubles with the camera, so we decided we are going to keep the stream with us and to keep the board going. And so, anyway, it's good to see you.
Always good to see you, Jen. And what matters, as you said, Nicola, is that the pieces are moving on the board. So we have everything that we need. Chess
Yeah.
pieces moving all around the board with a white attack here that Nicola is trying to figure out what's the best way to continue here for white after bishop
Okay.
g4.
What other options do I have? Okay, something tells me that there is a better move behind one of these. on c1, on the other hand. All right, so let me think for a second. If I just, out of sheer curiosity, play this, and he takes, I gain a half-open file for the rook,
Uh-huh.
which is actually to my fairly significant advantage. And then, then there are some possibilities of. So, and this is actually a fairly strong piece.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so this is actually probably a very strong candidate move, as is another one is this, that has been a candidate move since time immemorial.
Mm-hmm.
Pawn structure being destroyed, I don't think matters that much in this position. d5, knight e5. He can't even play knight e5 because I'm gonna take. If I take, and then he takes, and then I've developed the rook for him. So no, I can't play d5.
Can you say that again? Because you were calculating a very interesting line. So d5, knight to e5.
So d5, knight to e5. I'm taking,
Mm-hmm.
but the problem with that line is that he can just take, right?
Because what would have happened if bishop takes d1?
I have a very nice jump on f7.
Do you?
Well, he can take, and then I take. What I'm hearing is that there is a better move.
I'm just testing your calculation here.
Yeah, I mean, so knight on e5. It's very close to a mate, but it's not really mate.
How is it close to a mate?
Well, this this king doesn't have that many fields, that many moves.
Oh, you mean in this very moment or after d5?
Meaning after, well, if the line is d5, knight d5. Oops.
Yeah.
All right, so what I'm hearing is that I'm missing something.
How do you know that I'm trying to point out something?
Well, you and I have just enough classes that I think I can recognize the voice.
I was
And,
hoping that the frozen cameras will not give away anything because you often read my face.
all right, so 95. What am I missing? There is this knight g6.
So d5, knight e5, knight takes e5, bishop takes d1.
Okay, there are no direct threats from black, but the knight is attacked.
Yeah, correct.
Okay, so I can play knight f7, but that looks like an exchange.
Is it?
Well, he takes on f7, I take on f7, and I need to calculate the number of pieces.
Check that line again.
I'm actually a piece ahead, right?
And take a look at that line again. Once again, move by move. I'm going to remove the arrows so that it's less confusing. Calculate slowly the same line from here.
Okay, d5.
Yeah?
Knight e5.
Yes?
Takes on e5.
Uh-huh.
Knight f7.
Mm-hmm.
Takes on f7 because otherwise it's Bottas gambit.
Yeah?
I take on f7.
Sure?
And the bishop is still in d1 under threat, and I have an extra piece.
Okay, one more time. Knight f7. Rook takes f7.
Yeah.
Yes? Uh-huh.
And what am I missing? Bishop is on d1, right?
Yeah, the black bishop is on d1.
What I'm hearing is you're saying that black has a better move here?
No. Rook takes f7 is what black plays.
Okay, but then I can take on f7, right? with a bishop
Can you?
on d3.
Can you take
Oh,
it?
I cannot because, yeah, sorry, it's on d5, my bad.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, duh, sorry.
But it's still an interesting line, just not because of knight f7. So let's try to figure out that position. d5, knight e5,
Okay.
knight takes e5, bishop takes d1,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a strong move in that position, but it's not knight f7.
Okay, I have an option to play knight g6. There is an option to play d6 and then actually threaten the
Mm-hmm.
knight f7. And I don't see anything else.
Yeah, let's calculate the ones that you mentioned and see if any of them works.
Okay. All right. So after.
I think we can play that position out already because I force you work through it blindfolded.
No, that's fine. I was told
Here.
many times that I need to play. Practice visualization.
Yeah, but
All
I
right.
think you've visualized this position enough to now place it on the board. So we are saying that knight f7 is not an option here because the d5 pawn is covering the diagonal of the bishop. But there are plenty of other options for white, and we need to see. Nikola mentioned knight g6, d6. We need to see if any of them works or is there something else.
Correct. All right. So we have a knight that's under attack.
Yes.
Interesting position. Interesting element of this position is that this black bishop really has nowhere to go.
Very good. That's really well spotted.
So I can actually. Okay. So I can take with g6 and then play bishop h6, for example.
So you don't even want to take on d1.
Oh, that's too obvious.
Well, I'm not saying obvious moves are bad.
No, you're not. Okay, so option number one is to take on d1, which is normal.
Mhm.
Option number two is to take on g6 with a check and then take on d1.
Yes.
If there is anything else, I don't see it.
Which one would you go for, taking on d1 or taking on g6?
Well, taking on g6 is an extra pawn, and if there is one thing I learned from you is that free stuffs are free stuff.
Yes, very good. I'm proud of you, Nikola. I'm trying to turn you from an attacking player that sacrifices material into a pawn grabber.
Well, yeah. So knight g6, then rook d1, and I have an extra pawn and a better position. That should be enough for win, I think.
Yeah, and knight g6 is one of the best moves here indeed. You pick up the pawn, and it's not just the pawn, but as you said, that weakens the black king, so later you have ideas with bishop to h6. But first we will just take back on d1. Interestingly, in this position, for whatever reason, rook takes d1, I thought is the natural move. That's the second best move. Main move of Stockfish is knight takes d1. I haven't quite figured out why. I haven't quite figured out why, except for the fact that if you leave the rook on g1, you are supporting the pawn push, and this knight is still trapped. So I'm thinking that natural moves like queen d7 don't work here.
Yeah. Hey, Joe Bruin, my dear friend and a fellow streamer. Let me just give a quick shout out to him. Anna and I have been having technical difficulties with two different computers, and we have decided not to cancel the session. So instead of this, we are we put on the pictures and figured our voices and board are, what really matters. So, well, nobody wants to look at me, though I have a nice hat today, and
A really nice hat, and you were gonna show us more of the hat. So I'm really sad, but for next week we will have everything figured out.
right. Okay, so knight d1. I guess what our Silicon friend is saying, I really want to keep queen on d2 and rook on g1, which actually does make
Yeah,
sense.
yeah. It's just such a funny move that rook takes d1 is so natural, but at the same time, yes, you said these pieces are well placed where they are, and the knight on c3 wasn't helping that much in the attack, so it doesn't make that much of a difference whether it's on c3 or d1. Interestingly,
Thank
there's
you.
one more.
Thanks a lot, my friend. That's greatly appreciated.
Thank you so much, Joe. Thank you for the support. There's one more strong move in the position. Knight takes g6 is one of the best, but I would like you to try to also find another knight move that can be strong with a different idea.
Okay. All right. And for the record, guys, I can actually see Anna's face, so I can look at her.
I was hoping that you don't have the time to open the tab. I'm gonna try to put the poker face
No,
on.
no, that's perfectly fine. Okay. So, and I presume it's, well, we don't want to give away that knight. That knight is actually very strong.
Mm-hmm.
Right, we have eliminated knight f7, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Well, we do have an option to play something along the lines of knight g4, but that kind of, the bishop on d1 is annoying, because then we are gifting a strong knight for a really good bishop.
Whew, thank you for saying
Yeah.
that. I was terrified for a moment.
No, I'm just eliminating possibility.
Yes, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Knight g6 and knight f7 have been eliminated. Knight d7 doesn't seem to be achieving anything. Neither does knight c6. Knight c4 blocks the bishop. Knight f3 and fg4 allows black to take. So knight d3.
What's the idea?
That's the move.
I don't know. What's the idea?
I'll be very honest with you. I would not play knight d3. If there is a compelling reason to play knight d3, I don't see it. I'll be honest.
Let's try to figure it out, because knight takes g6, we already showed it's a perfectly fine and strong move. But even stronger is
Knight
knight
d3.
to d3.
Oh.
Let's find a reason why.
All right, this is why this class is called Anna's torture session. All right, please, okay, I might believe you. So, what is the idea? Play first. We are liberating that bishop. Well, we're not really liberating bishop. Bishop g4, h3, and g4 wins the piece.
Uh-huh.
Okay. We are gonna play g4 and then knight f4 and threaten g6 or e6. But we're gonna play knight c5 to bring the knight to e6. Yeah.
Sorry, you mean that now? Which move do you consider for black?
Well, black is already a piece down, right?
Black has taken
Well,
a rook,
right.
and we took a minor piece. Yes.
Correct. So unless this bishop on d1 manages to save itself, which it really can't, we're gonna have two pieces plus two pieces for a rook plus a strong attack.
Yes, yes. So there's no way black can prevent the loss of the bishop or the loss of the knight on h5.
Yeah, well, maybe one of them, but not both.
Yes, one of them will be captured. Yes. Very
Yeah.
good. Yeah, that's why knight d3 is even stronger. But knight takes g6 too was really a winning move. It's decisive advantage, but this one is the material and still the initiative. So very good job. Knight to d3. I know you enjoy these
Yeah,
moments.
thank you. I wouldn't have seen an 93 in a million years, but thank you.
It's all right because knight takes g6 was your
Yeah.
intuition, and that was a winning move too. So
Yeah.
I only show the other move, the alternatives, when it makes sense to learn from the difference. Otherwise, I don't insist that you have to play the strongest moves of the engine. It was interesting, the detail that the bishop or the knight will be trapped.
Yeah.
So in the game, of course, none of this happened because because white didn't play d5. So let me show you the game. Now, after bishop g4, I think d5 is really. Wait, was it here that we were looking at? 1 second. d5. Oh, d5 knight e5. One more detail. Sorry, I almost forgot. After d5, knight e5. Is it this one? Just a second. I'm confused now about my own analysis. No, I think knight e5 is the right one. Yes, you said knight e5, knight takes. But maybe black should try instead of knight to e5. So knight e5, I think, is bad because of the line that you told us, knight takes e5. So I'm gonna try this one and see how you react. I don't know if it's much of an improvement. Oh, sorry, didn't make the move.
Sleeping Michigan, my approximate strength is to be determined. It's probably somewhere between 1900 and 2000 ELO. So something.
I think at least that.
Yeah. So my official USCF rating is like 1600, but that's based on 3 games that I played in a single tournament. So that's not accurate. Oh yes, and my allometer rating is 2495, which is about as accurate as.
It's stronger than my one.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks. I actually had a very good laugh about it. All right, so knight a5. Okay, what's my reaction to this?
Yes, intuition-wise, and then let's think further.
Intuition-wise, I can actually. Well, hold on. I could just basically. Do I want to give sacrifice and exchange and play knight d4?
You want to sacrifice no matter what.
No, I'm not. I'm not saying that. But this is appealing.
Yes, it's one of the options for sure.
And then if he takes on d1, I can continue with the same plan as before and just play knight d6.
Mm-hmm.
And then grab one of the pieces and then figure how I'm going to trap the rook.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one option. All right. So knight d4 is one option. I really cannot save the bishop. Well, I can play bishop a4 and hope for the best. Oh, thank you, Sleeping Michigan. That's very kind of you. I don't want to put the bishop in the corner just to save it, though this knight is not terribly good either.
Mm-hmm.
But let's make that a candidate move.
Sure.
I still can play that bishop h6, and I'm actually curious to see if the white ever played that move.
Good point.
This is a typical teaser that Anna puts. Like, I really want to play bishop h6. for the whole game, and then she anyway.
You figured me out, Nikola.
Yes. All right. What else is there? Well, it's take with a check, so I can't really have an intermediate move.
Mm-hmm.
I can play to open up the G file and play H3
Mm-hmm.
and force black to take.
Yes.
So let me write that up. And I don't see anything else in here that's immediately obvious.
It does not necessarily have to be obvious. I was curious what your intuition would say as a continuation, because there's no concrete line here for white that would be the one way to go. So there are a couple of similarly good moves. What's a drawback of bishop to a4?
Well, the bishop kind of moves away from a strong diagonal.
Mm-hmm.
The pawn on d5 is not strong. Hey, Kyrex, thank you for the follow. That's very greatly appreciated. Thank you. And what else do I see? Anyway, let me think for a second.
Mm-hmm.
Well, obviously there is knight c4, so that basically eliminates that move immediately.
Yes. So as much as this bishop has been a useful one, but this is even stronger.
Yes, we need to part ways with it, so that's
Mm-hmm.
obvious. Forcing variations along the line of d6 are actually to black's advantage.
Mm-hmm.
So that basically leaves this and this. I don't think this actually does. The rook f1, rook df1 makes any sense. And I can actually play bishop h6 finally. I would, whether it's the strongest move in the position is open for the debate. But, this feels slow, rook df1. So I'll probably finally push this to h6.
It's a good move.
Yeah.
I was curious if you would ever believe that it's okay to play it. It's a strong move, bishop h6. That's one of the options. There are many options. It really is the kind of position where there's no clear-cut solution, so it depends on the style of the player. Even king b1 is an option for a prophylactic move. Queen f2 is interesting if you want to take back on f3 with the queen later to keep the threat of g4 alive. So for instance, if you play queen f2, then you are threatening h3 and bishop takes f3, queen takes, the knight is still trapped on h5. So these are small details that white has, but nothing is like a concrete, this is the one way to go. Bishop h6 is also perfectly fine. So good job there.
Okay.
Of course, none of this happened in the game. Yeah, so let's go back to
this show.
So let's go back to the game. D5 is one of the.
What do those grandmasters know about interrupt?
No, sorry. It perfectly well questioned because they didn't play the best move here. White with the Dmitry Froyanov, strong grandmaster, but bishop d5 is not the best. I think your move d5 is stronger. Also, in this position too, I like these tiny details with queen f2, just so that after h3 you can take back with the queen and threaten g4. So those are ideas that white had. But bishop to d5, it's not a blunder, but simply it doesn't really achieve what white wants. And now we're going to be thinking from black's perspective too. How to try to create counterplay.
So he basically played this so he can take with bishop on f3, I presume, right?
I think so. But for that, I thought queen f2 is more natural. But it's a rapid game, so maybe I shouldn't really be going deep on why not queen f2 if the same idea is just to take back with a piece on f3.
Okay.
So this is not a mistake in a sense that white's position is worse now. I think white is still maybe better, or it's unclear. Not worse. White is not worse. But the question is, if you're playing this position with the black pieces, how do you try to create counter chances?
Okay. I have too many pieces that are badly placed.
It's not a dream position, I know,
No,
but
no,
imagine.
I'm like, okay, so I need to start improving them.
Yeah.
It's tempting to play f5
Mm-hmm.
because, and what because this knight is pinned. I can exchange it, and then I can put the rook knight to f6. It also eliminates any threats of g4. So that's one easy candidate move.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, do I want to move the knight somewhere with a tempo? Maybe give this pawn away to play with b8 and then have counterplay on the side b file.
That's interesting. Very interesting that you are mentioning that you would not be scared of losing a pawn if it was for some activity.
Uh, so that's actually a pretty appealing move because I can then take and then maybe put knight on f5 and then that prevents this from ever happening, and g4 is too slow because I'm going to exchange here.
Mm-hmm.
But I can play knight e7, and then where is this bishop going? If he goes, I've opened the file, and then I can play f5 and so on. And so I just got some text that I need to take a quick peek at. Apologies.
Sure, no worries.
Yeah, okay. It's not important. My apologies. So what am I doing here? As black.
Mm-hmm.
I can play f5, but
Which one do you find more appealing if you play this with the black pieces? I know it's not a dream position, but you want to try to fight your way back into the game.
well, the f5 motive has been there for a long time, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure it's the greatest move because there is takes 95, and there is also the knight is pinned. What am I talking about? If I play f5, there is white can play h3, and then I'm forced to exchange the bishop until unfavorable conditions. So a knight move appears to be preferable.
Mm-hmm.
Now the question is, do I play knight b4 or do I play knight e7?
Mm-hmm. Which one would you go for? I'm gonna just get rid of the rest of the arrows. So this or this. Oh, sorry. Here we go.
Best move is probably I mean, I have a gut feeling that knight e7 is better. I can't even pinpoint why, to be honest. I might be completely off, but knight b4 is an attacking move.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I guess I'll play knight b4.
And the idea is that after bishop takes b7, you want to use the b file, right? So
Yeah.
knight b4, bishop takes b7, rook b8, and black has given up a pawn, but for that you have gained quite some activity and a semi-open b file.
Yes, and at some point I'm going to play f5, and that bishop on g7 will become a monster. Also, I'm, where is that bishop exactly going right now?
Mm-hmm.
It has to go on e4, and then I can actually push f5 with the tempo.
Yeah.
And then I can even play f4.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, I'm attacking and black is defending.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, it's worth a pawn.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, worship my friend. Yes, it's the day for Nikola, exactly.
It is start your day
Yeah,
because
first time
it's
I took over. All right. Yeah, honestly, this is worth a pawn. Seriously. I mean, objectively, it's worth a pawn
yeah.
because do you mind if I just draw a couple of moves and I may
Oh
not
yeah,
even
go
think
ahead.
of
Go
that?
ahead, please. Yes.
This, 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 this. Uh, I mean, there is nothing really concrete here, but all of a sudden, all the white threats have been eliminated,
Mm-hmm.
and and black can even play something like this,
Yeah, very good intuition.
and it's and then it can take oh, it can't take on c3 because of the check, but yeah, I'll transition into this position from the one that we have seen before in the New York minute. So.
Absolutely. Yeah, you really have a very strong intuition for dynamic positions because you weren't afraid of giving up the b7 pawn for getting this activity and counter chances. So this is a way more complex position than the one where we started out from. That's why it seems that bishop d5 isn't really the best, because giving up the pawn on b7, knight b4 or knight e7, it's very difficult to choose the right square. And the grandmaster with the black pieces, 2562, his rating, also went for knight b4. And the funny thing is, knight b4 seems the best, and everything you said with bishop b7 is correct. So the only reason it seems why there will be a difference is if white does not take the pawn, which is like, okay, then what? Like bishop c4. And if we compare, let me just go back 1 second. Where did I lose it in my analysis? So in the starting position, no, wait a second. Let's keep it here for a moment.
Okay.
Just to see if we can continue for black with dynamic moves in this position or not. And then let's compare it to 97 afterwards.
So you're okay. So we are basically trying to continue to aim for the dynamism of the position. Okay.
Yes, let's try.
Okay. Well, if I remember correctly, we had a rather similar position here that we kind of stopped, and one of the potential options was to play c6, which is an appealing move
Mm-hmm.
because it creates an outpost on d5
Mm-hmm.
and opens the diagonal for the queen.
Mm-hmm.
So I would consider that to be a candidate move.
Yeah.
So, let's give c6 some shout. Another option is to follow this pattern and play f5, which kind of eliminates the g4 threat a little bit because knight has a space to disappear. So those two are immediately obvious options.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yes.
I mean, do we want to take on f3 and then play f5? I don't see that knight going anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to play rook e8? Not really. There is not. It's kind of a throwaway move. Okay, so the question here is, you're asking me what would I play here as
Yes. Yeah, correct.
c5. Actually, c6 appears as a perfectly good move.
Yeah, I think c6 perhaps was the best try.
Yeah.
C6, and we're gonna take a look at it in the game. But now, before we continue with that position, I do want you to compare that position and c6 to your other idea, knight to e7. So we conclude that both in the case of knight b4 and knight e7, if white takes the pawn, black gets
Yeah.
quite some compensation with the b file opening up, and it's a dynamic position where finally black can also attack. So the question is, what is the difference with where the knight is when the pawn is not accepted?
Okay.
How will you continue here for black?
Well, the curses to a5 is much less strong because the knight is not there. So
Mm-hmm.
c6 loses some of its appeal.
Yes, true.
We also here have an option of play knight f5. I'm not saying that's a good move, but that's an option.
Mm-hmm.
And that also prevents bishop h6.
Mm-hmm.
So and then we can move that knight from h5, threaten the black square bishop, which actually probably should not be exchanged. So the only move that white has to prevent it from being exchanged is to go here, and then we can park the knight on d6, where all of a sudden it's a pretty damn strong piece that threatens this bishop.
That's correct, but show me an even stronger move after bishop f2.
Then bishop d6. Oh
Sorry,
yes.
so we're
Oh
looking at
yeah,
knight
yeah, okay,
f5.
yeah. I know what you have in mind. This. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the key feature here, that after
Yeah.
knight f5, white
Yeah.
cannot keep the bishop.
No.
And this is an important one. We wanted to trade it on h6. And
Yeah.
if white had played it earlier, I guess it wouldn't be a regret right now that we cannot do it anymore.
Yeah.
Very good. This wasn't spotted by the two grandmasters playing, or at least not it wasn't played by black. I think knight e7 for this reason was a better move. So same idea about giving up the pawn, but you also have knight f5 as an option. I
Yeah.
tried to look at alternatives here for white. If white doesn't want to give up, if white doesn't want to take, but also tries to keep the bishop on this diagonal. But I think you know the answer here. After bishop b4, what would you play?
He played bishop e4.
No, this is not the game.
Oh, okay.
I was asking, what would you play if after knight e7, white plays bishop to e4?
Yeah. Well, the f5 is
Yeah,
an immediate move.
yes, that improves this bishop. The bishop on g4 is not in trouble because there's always bishop f3,
Yeah.
and we kind of are telling white to take the b7 pawn at last.
Yeah.
Which is what we want. So yeah, very good. This would have given quite some compensation and an unclear position. Oops, I jumped. Sorry. I think this is why bishop d5 wasn't really good. If black had played knight e7, but it didn't happen. What happened in the game was knight to b4. So tiny difference, but it meant quite some after here. c6, I think, is the best attempt for black, honestly. But
Yeah.
maybe a bit too slow now. Still, I find this a better move than the game. In the game, black simply took on f3, which I don't even see why that could be a good attempt. I mean, I don't know. Maybe he was a bit desperate. But c6. Now let's try to find a good continuation for white after c6.
Okay. All right. So the fabled bishop h6
Still an option. Will it be played?
Okay. F5. Oh, sorry, we're playing as white again.
Yeah. Sorry, I keep asking you to switch sides.
No, that's perfectly fine. Actually, you know what? The motive of playing Queen F2 is also appealing here.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
you can actually push H3 and whatever,
Mm-hmm.
take with a queen. So that's so. All right. So this is one. This is
Mm-hmm.
two. It doesn't look like it makes much sense, but even this might be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't see anything else. I mean, if we play A3, we're forcing knight where it wants to go.
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
Uh, I mean, we can all. I mean, H3 has been on an option since time immemorial. Just it's just not. I don't see another move.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't.
Sure.
And now Anna is going to yes,
um,
okay.
no, it makes perfect sense what you have said. I'm gonna start with Queen F2 because that was one of my favorite moves in the other positions.
Okay.
There's a tiny difference here now that the pawn is on C6. We're gonna switch sides and play this now from Black's perspective.
Okay. All right. We can follow the motive we started with and play knight d5,
Mm-hmm. That's an option.
which is a nice option.
Mm-hmm.
We can push f5. That has been the motive since time immemorial.
Yes.
Thank you, Pope XTC. Thank you for the follow. That's very greatly appreciated. Thank you so much. And I honestly don't see anything else that's appealing.
So you wouldn't try to launch a queenside attack as Black.
You mean play queen a5?
How would you try to attack here as Black if you wanted to get to the C1 king?
Well, I can play d5
Uh-huh. And then?
and then a5, depending where the bishop goes.
Oh, sorry, I'm just trying to get rid of the arrows for a moment. So b5, where does the bishop go?
Well, bishop can actually go to e2 and neutralize that bishop on g4 so that knight can jump. Can also go to d3, but that gives a tempo to the blacks down the line.
Mm-hmm.
D3 is not good, and I don't see bishop f1 is useful. So realistically, it's a choice between bishop b3 and bishop e2.
Uh-huh.
I
So,
think
for instance, b5, bishop b3, how do you see this position? And what would you play as Black?
a5 and then a3, a4.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's why bishop needs to go to e2.
Uh-huh. So let's take a look at that one.
Okay. We can continue with a5 motive. We can still play f5.
Yes.
We can actually play queen a5, which is a tempo move.
Mm-hmm.
So then a3 is a little difficult to make a decision
Mm-hmm.
because we can't really then play knight d5. So queen a5 is not. I wouldn't play queen a5 here. A5 is there, F5 is there, and there is also something along the lines of playing bishop e6 and threatening the a2 pawn. In other words, we draw that bishop with a tempo.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't see anything else.
I think you have named all the good possibilities. Which one would you go for by intuition?
A5.
Mm-hmm. I think A5 is interesting, and also what you mentioned, another pawn push F5. I think those are the two moves that make quite some sense here. And what we have achieved as black by pushing B5, that this bishop on E2 is not as active as it was on C4. F5 opens up the diagonal of the G7 bishop. Finally, we may be able to push further with F4. And also, because of F5, we finally have a square for the knight if this trade happens on F3. So that's another plus for pushing F5, so that this knight is back in the game, and we may be able to then jump to D5 or E4, depends on the position.
And thank you, Annie Pro 103 for the follow. That's very greatly appreciated. Okay, so
this position, maybe it's still better for white somewhat, but it's not that much of a deal anymore. That's why I think it seems that after c6, white has to go for something really concrete and straightforward, because now black also is about to launch an attack on the queen side.
okay. And for the record, that position with bishop on e2 that we analyzed and queen on f2 and so on, I almost have a feeling that that's better for black, but I might be wrong.
Maybe. I would be curious if you want to check it with Lila. I don't have an exact evaluation for that.
All right, so here, so we need to play something concrete. Something concrete is again bishop on h6.
Could be.
Um,
What else is concrete?
Concrete is to play h3.
Uh-huh.
And I can even play, this is moves like knight e4. But that basically, hey Ninja Kitten Eve, thank you for the host. That's very greatly appreciated. Thank you so much. So I mean, we can play a3, and if it, yeah, the problem, we can then take with a knight, and then push bishop on d3.
So you're thinking h3?
No, a3.
Oh, a3. Sorry, I misheard you. a3, yes. And after knight d5?
We take with a knight and then put bishop on d3. So that's one option that has major disadvantages. C file gets open and so on and so forth.
Uh-huh.
We can play h3 and force black to take.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see what else we have. I mean, do we have something else?
There's one more concrete line that you haven't
I mean,
listed in this position. You named it in another position.
No. I mean, we can finally do the d5 push.
Let's see.
Yeah. Okay.
What would happen after d5?
Anna sounds when she disapproves of the recommendation.
I'm trying to not reveal my evaluation of the situation, my assessment. So
more than once that my late mother was saying instructions, was basically tutoring pupils in Serbian literature, and she said all her bad students were looking at the instructor to see the to see on their face whether they gave the right answer or not. And it was actually very funny. And just as a side note, I was watching Alexandra Bottas and Elizabeth Pechts, and Alexandra was doing the same thing. So if Alexandra can do it, I can do it. Anyway, just kidding. Anyway, yes, David, it's certainly difficult. All right, so we basically said we don't want to play Queen F2, because that brings B5, correct?
Yes, we left
Uh,
it at d5. That was your latest suggestion, and I'm really saying I may or may not have been hiding my actual assessment of the move. So let's think
may
about
or
it.
may not. Okay.
Let's think about it for real. D5. What happens after d5?
I don't think Jen Shahade is here, but don't. I don't think you want to play. Actually, I think you want to play poker against Anna.
I'm really bad at anything that involves poker face and just being able to hide your emotions. But in this case, I do want to see what happens after d5.
Okay. All right. So you want me to analyze after D5? Okay.
Yes.
So, does white black need to take?
Good question.
I can play D5.
What happens after b5?
Then white needs to move the bishop somewhere.
hmm
In
Where
other
do you
words,
think
the
white will
line
move?
that we discussed is actually quite valid. B5, bishop B3, A5. And
hmm
then if white takes, then uh, there is a possibility of exchanging the queens, which I think in this position would be actually in black's favor.
hmm
So that's one option. Um, but I can also play C5. It
In
can
which
play.
position?
It can play F5.
After d5, immediate c5, you mean?
Immediate C5 or immediate F5.
Are you sure about those moves? Or one of them? I
No,
cannot
I'm
decide
not.
which one.
No, I'm not. Um,
So d5.
okay, D5. C5 is too dangerous. I'm creating a very strong passed pawn. And after, I cannot play C5 because bishop takes in C5, and then losing a pawn and a knight. That would be
Correct.
an auto stupidity.
Hmm.
But I don't need to take, because if white takes on C6, I'm gonna exchange queens and take on C6 and then fine. I can play F5, in which case that bishop on G7 is very strong.
hmm
I can take, and I don't know what white can take with a probably knight. And then after that exchange, we have that bishop on D5, and we actually have a rather ugly version of what we already seen. So I don't really want to take.
Yeah, let's show that on the board. So what
Sure.
Nikola is saying that if we trade everything on d5, white has a really nicely placed bishop on d5 that controls the entire board, including this attack over the b7 pawn, which is not the same here if we end up trading queens especially, but also the bishop is protecting the f3 knight, so white, not h4, but h3 is once again an option, and a take back on f3 with the bishop. And that would lead to a pair of bishop position where white is about to capture or attack the queenside pawns, and the knight on h5 is really struggling.
And where is Hammer to see these bishops?
It's hammer time. We need Yul Ludwig hammer right now here. I agree. So this would be a really nice position for white, and that's why Nikola was trying to make other moves for black that doesn't involve the trade on d5. So c5 we eliminated because the bishop can take it. Sorry, black cannot push because of bishop takes c5.
And I have to say, I've made moves that's stupid in bullet games, for the record. So I don't want to say that's my bullet move, but I have known to make such moves. No, F5 appears to be a perfectly reasonable move.
Okay, so f5, if that's your call, now let's swap sides and think about this position for white.
All right, well, I don't want to take because I'm trading queens and he takes on c6. Well, I still have two very strong bishops. Let's see. Let me just play this out. So I don't want to take because if I take, he can take. Black can take on c3. Oh yeah, the bishop on c4 is here. So all right. So Black played f5. Black also had an option to play b5, but that's separate now. Yeah, unfortunately, it has this, which is a killer.
Mm-hmm.
So we cannot really. So we need immediate countermeasures.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Point made. All right. So does this mean after d5 we have to play? Oh, sorry, I'm going to return this. So f5 is not played. Does this work now?
Let's see. b5.
Okay.
Where would you place the bishop?
Okay. Well, I'm only in one place that's actually, well, this is a continuous threat, right?
Bishop c5, you mean?
Yes,
Now I
bishop
don't see the
c5 is a
arrows.
continuous threat.
Mm-hmm.
Um, okay, what do I do here?
So if bishop c5 is quite a big threat, where do you think you would go with the bishop in a bullet or blitz game, intuition-wise?
Do I need to put the bishop? I can just play bishop c5 immediately, but then he takes and I take, and there is a b file, so no, that doesn't look very appealing.
Mm-hmm.
And taking this, even sacrificing the exchange, that doesn't appeal to me because this bishop on f8 is actually stronger than the rook.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so well, if we calculated this, if he plays here, I'm playing a5, and then the knight is protected. I'm sorry,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm threatening a4. So realistically,
Correct.
the only move is to go back here.
That's the way to be thinking about positions and how you eliminated bishop b3 over bishop e2. Not that bishop b3 is a mistake, but as you explained, a5, bishop b3 calls for a5, does protect the knight, and also threatens a4. So I think the most sensible move here is what you said, bishop e2, because we are threatening bishop c5. Um, we may not want to take on c6, but we might want to push d6 and create a pass pawn if bishop c5 is prevented.
Yep.
And also with the bishop on e2, another idea is renewed, which is h3 and then taking on f3 with the bishop.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
So a lot of pluses. Very good job. This, I think, is once again a really advantageous position for white. Didn't happen in the game, of course, but we are here to learn.
Okay. I think I'm going to create a command that basically that's going to count how many times Anna said didn't happen in the game.
To be fair, we are looking at this now because I truly think c6 was perhaps the best practical chance for black because
Yeah.
it makes sense to control more the d5 square and try to push b5. So I still think that black should have tried because I don't really understand the point behind. So after knight b4, bishop c4, black took on f3, um, which only helps white, I think. I don't really see what black is aiming for. But it was a rapid game, so once again, it's really
Okay.
maybe my bad. I'm trying to look for perfect moves when they didn't have much time on the clock. Finally, black played f5 here, and now
Okay.
it's your turn again, Nikola. Let's reassess the position because it has changed quite some because of that trade on f3.
Okay. All right. So this knight is no longer in danger of being trapped.
Yep, that's a plus for black.
Yes. It's still kind of dim on the rim, but it's not there.
Yeah.
There's a moderately annoying threat of playing f4, which may or may not be a good thing, but it's there, so it's fine. Black can play c6 here as well. But so the motives for white are to play d5, which doesn't have as much punch because of that bishop on g7 now. Okay, so I don't see any tactics. If there are any, I don't see them.
That's correct. There are no tactics here.
We can play the fabled bishop h6 again. Which may or may not be the right move. But now is the last chance.
Yes, correct. Now or never.
Correct. And all right, so you're asking me what I'm playing as, what's my plan as white?
Yeah, let's say an intuition move and then
Intuition
continue further.
Is, I want to put this knight back on c6 and then maybe play d5. But then this knight ends on e5, but it's quite annoying and I'm not gaining much. Then I have to play bishop b3. And then there is a very nice spin here, so we need to push the bishop to e2, and I have passivized my pieces. So that's not a good idea. Okay, I'm probably finally playing this.
Yay!
Yeah.
It's one of the strongest moves.
Okay.
Here it really is, I think, because
it still works.
Yeah, and as you said, black may push f4, and that will not allow us to, not only it stops bishop h6, but it will restrict our bishop. We have the pair of bishops. We either want to open up the position further with moves like d5 to have space for our bishop, or we want to trade that g7 bishop. I mean, d5 and bishop h6 are similar in that sense that you want to get rid of this one because that's the best defender around the black king.
Yeah.
I think bishop h6 is really strong, one of the best moves.
Okay, and I'm sensing, but that's not what this time.
Correct. But not because it's not a strong move. White played another strong move instead.
Okay.
Similar idea, because the way white played, you mentioned that move, and it's true that d5 in itself doesn't have that much of a punch because we cannot really create a pass pawn, but it does free the d4 square for bishop d4.
Yeah, that actually makes perfect sense.
Yeah, so it's a very similar idea where you trade the bishop. d5.
Hey, Durkee99, thank you for joining us. And my apologies again to everybody for the technical difficulties and for the static pictures we had. We had same problem on two different computers. So anyway, I promise to fix it by the next thing. Hey, Chestnut Casey, thank you for joining us. Okay, so he played d5.
Yes,
And
now
switching sides again.
If you want to. It's not a pleasant task for black to try to deal with this.
Can I just make one obnoxious statement?
Yes.
I mean, why didn't he play c6?
Earlier, a very good question. He had a couple of options to do it, a couple of moments where it was possible. And that's why also I really don't get bishop takes f3, because it made I mean, maybe if after taking he plays c6, but it didn't feel like he needed to take on f3 in the first place without h3 being included.
Yeah. Okay.
It just feels like a loss of tempo there, yes. So it
Okay.
didn't happen, and now this is the situation.
Thank
I
you, my
really.
friend Worship. Those are very kind words.
Oh, worship. He
Worship enjoyed
purposely puts
working with
himself
me
through this
closely. He
torture.
actually was kind enough to say that in other channels as well. So thank you.
Thank you,
Uh,
worship. I appreciate that you appreciate the torture as a viewer. Hopefully, you are also trying to figure these exercises out. And I'm trying my best to torture everybody in the audience as much as Nikola is being tortured.
Successfully.
I
Okay.
think this is kind of a sad position for black. So, what are the main threats of white? Let's just list a few of the possible moves here if it was white to move again.
So okay. So the white played d5, and we're playing as black.
Yeah, but before we make a move for black, what do you see as the main threats or the main options that white is aiming for here?
Well, bishop on d4 is murderous.
Yes, apart from that, anything else?
The knight on b4 is in a little bit of trouble.
Yes,
And
how
the
to take
table
advantage?
bishop c5 is rearing what it is rearing its head. So that
Yes.
actually is an immediate threat that needs to be handled.
Yeah,
And I
yes.
think, honestly, those two, the bishop d4 and bishop z5, kind of are enough to make the d5 a pretty decent move, actually.
True. Yes.
I mean, all kidding aside. So. Okay, so yeah, and I think those two are actually enough. And there is always that bishop h6, but these two threats are actually significantly more dangerous in this position.
Hmm. True.
All right, so what can black do? Now, the black can play f4, which doesn't do it any good. If he takes on c3, he's going to get instamated very quickly.
Hmm.
Uh, I mean, problem with playing moves like b6 to prevent bishop c5 is that after a3, that particular bishop is, knight is gone.
Hmm.
Trying to prevent bishop c5 at a3, d6, dies to queen f2.
Hmm.
Okay, so if I'm black here, I'm basically already committed to. I mean, I cannot really defend bishop c5,
Yeah.
and I can play knight a6,
Hmm.
or I can move the rook.
Yes.
So what's wrong with rook e8 here? So that's one option.
Hmm.
Knight a6 is basically you're running away before being forced to.
Yeah. Quite a sad move.
It's a
So
very
rook
sad
e8
move. So
is one
rook
of the
e8 is
moves
the
that
only, it's
Nikola
almost the only
considers
move.
knight a6. Um, yeah, the position is really sad. So I definitely don't envy your task here of trying to find ways in which to continue the game. Um, Another way in which you can try to deal with this, if you know that the knight will probably end up on a6, under what circumstances you think it would be the least bad? I know it's gonna be bad. It's a sad position, but if you will have to place the knight on a6, can you imagine a setup in which it wouldn't be that terrible, but it would be just terrible? So like not
Okay.
completely a
It
nightmare,
wouldn't be,
but
it
bad.
wouldn't be that terrible, but terrible.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So yes, triple X terrible versus double X terrible.
Yeah, we are working on our survival skills here, even if the position is really bad. Let's try to make it
All
at
right.
least bearable.
Well, A5 is one way to prevent bishop C5, I guess.
Hmm. Yeah, a5, and it really is a sad position, but at least we, as black, we have prevented bishop c5, and after a3, knight a6 isn't as terrible, even though it is terrible. Yes, this is exactly what I meant.
Yeah,
Um,
those knights on A6 and A5, Jesus.
exemplary placement of the knights in Grandmaster games.
Okay.
Black went for this idea but included this move, which is at least an active move that attacks the bishop. So kudos for black for finding one move that was going forward. After queen h4, white simply played bishop b3. I didn't want to ask about this move because a lot of moves are fine, but this is so simple. And still bishop c5, even though the queen is protecting the knight. It's questionable how long that queen will stay there, and it's just the whole setup is bad. So black eventually plays a5,
Okay.
and after a3, knight a6. How would you continue here as white?
Okay. Well, bishop d4, the motive doesn't work because the queen is actually stopping it.
Yeah, at least black would be able to trade queens. Still doesn't guarantee it was that black will survive that position, but at least will not get mated.
Correct. Um, Immediate move is f4 to kind of prepare bishop d4.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be a bullet move.
Sure.
And I don't necessarily care about the health, the immediate health of the pawn on f4 because I don't think black actually has time to worry about it.
Uh-huh.
Another interesting move is to ask the question of the queen, where does it want to go and play bishop g5?
Mm-hmm.
And the good question is, where indeed does that queen go? It has to go. Jesus, where can it go? It has to go to h3, right?
Yes.
Okay. So that's, I have to put it this way, that's the second look bullet game.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, we can't really trap it, can we? No. Actually, it's close to it, but no. This is probably the first time in which bishop h6. I'm not sure it makes much sense, but it's possible.
Yes, it's always in the air.
Um, and honestly, I don't see anything else.
Those are great suggestions. In this position, there are plenty of good moves for white. Bishop g5 is perhaps one of the strongest because, as you said, the queen has only one square. And even if we cannot trap it immediately after queen f2, we just say to this queen that it has not a single square where it can move to. So even if rook g3 is not a threat, and maybe we would need to go for something like bishop c4, bishop f1, just the fact that the strongest piece of black is unable to make a move without being lost, I think that already shows how bad black's position is. And that doesn't even list the knights yet, as you already highlighted. Beautiful, beautiful knights. So this, I think, is one of the best options.
Sure.
Not winning on the spot because we're not winning the queen next move or anything, but the position for black is a nightmare.
Yeah, but if white afters any move and black plays bishop c4, then the only move is to play f4.
Yes.
And then that knight on h5 is kind of eternal guardian of that pawn on f4.
Very true. So f4 will have to be played to save the queen, but that will be killing the knight. Yes.
Okay.
Very true.
So
if it happened in the game, no.
No,
I thought that was gonna be the next question.
no, I would
but
be
but I think this would have been one of the strongest. What the white played after knight a6 also makes sense. White simply went for knight to b5. I mean, the position for black at this stage is already so sad that many moves are fine. It's just it's bound to happen in a position that's this good. A4 was an attempt by black, but the bishop is okay on a2. So that's kind of the end of the attack for black on the queen side.
I mean, black has only one decent piece, the bishop on g7.
Yes, and it's bound to be exchanged if white wants to play bishop d4. But yes, very well summarized that that's the only good piece of black. So that shows how bad this position is. Even if it's equal material and there's not a concrete line that would win the game here, it's just a nightmare in general.
Yeah.
So bishop a2, and after c6, it's your turn. This is the game. For once, we are looking at some of the final moves in the game. This is getting close to the end of... Oh, and I should promote this, sorry. How would you react to c6? And maybe, once again, there may be more of good and strong moves, but I'm just curious, what would you play in a game?
Okay, I can play knight d4, which is a perfectly good move. After takes, that bishop is a monster. And we're threatening, and if black takes, he's going to get mated very quickly. Or very close to it. It also threatens knight e6, that has been a threat for some time.
Yes, correct.
So that's a bullet move. And blitz move, well, we still have that bishop g5 is still there.
Yes.
And
what happens after bishop g5?
Well, the queen has nowhere to... the queen needs to go back to h3, right?
Yes. And then how would you continue?
Well, that pawn of f3 is endangered, and my knight is still traumatized.
So bishop g5, queen to h3.
Hey, Jerome Gambit, thank you for the follow. That's very greatly appreciated, my friend. Thank you. Okay. I can play knight d4 again in that position, which has the added benefit that it defends the pawn on f3.
So we are looking at bishop g5, queen h3, and knight d4.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened in the game.
Yeah, finally.
Also, the other move order that you said, knight d4 immediately makes sense too. I think both of them are strong. I was curious if you would even consider taking or going for something along that line, but I think you immediately spotted that there's not even a need for that. That gives a bit of a hope for black. If the b file opens, it's still is a great position for white. So even d takes c6 is okay. But I think you immediately understood that you don't even have to care about this because it's not even hanging the pawn. Plus, you may be able to play d6 if you don't trade on c6. So knight d4 or bishop g5, the two strongest moves. This happened in the game. And
And
after,
just wanted to give a shout out to Katie
sure,
Khan, my dear friend, and we had camera issues, so we have static images. My apologies for that. Okay, so this was what was played, and I
yeah,
presume
and
I'm
the
gonna ask you what to
game.
play here as black.
If you want to, I think it's
This is
really a
really
desperate position, kind of. Black played this, which looks like resignation for the move, which is
okay. So basically, uh, uh, white moves and black resigns.
oh, he made a few more moves, but I think only because it was a rapid game. It's completely lost.
Yeah, I mean, what doesn't win here? 96 is immediately. Oh, Jesus. 96 lights out.
Yeah,
Yeah, 96.
yeah, that's one of the winning moves. That's just simply to trade on e6. I mean, the trade is forced, but once we have traded the knights, we have created a monster passed pawn. This position is completely lost for black. The other move is bishop e7. I don't even know if you would want to take the exchange in a position
No,
like this. I would have assumed that you wouldn't want to because that bishop is beautiful. It's so
no, the
pretty.
bishop is stronger than that rook.
Yeah, so I was thinking if you would play this move, maybe you would do it just so that you can then play knight e6. So this is another way of playing, for instance. But I think 96 immediately, as you said, is really forcing and lights out, basically.
Okay.
If you guys don't believe how much lights out, I challenge you to play this against anyone, that position, or practice against the engine. The game finished with bishop e7, knight d7, then white took on c6. It's just everything is winning, and then he played knight e6. After which, in this moment when he can take the bishop, he then took the rook. So it's just basically now going for everything that's hanging. It was a rapid game, and the end of the game probably was even more in time trouble. So I guess white went for
That's
something that he
simple.
thought was the simplest. But as you said, 96 or many other moves were winning. So
No,
the end is not so. Sorry.
I'm laughing at what my friend Worship posted in chat. I'll walk away and not look at that board for a month if I play this.
That's brilliant. That's absolutely brilliant.
Good
I
job,
think that
Worship.
sums up worship the position. So the importance of this game wasn't the final moves because from I think from the moment black took on f3 and white pushed after f5 d5, I think this is a nightmare and it's a decisive advantage for white.
Yeah.
So it slowly but surely started going out of black's control the game. I do think that the final critical moment for when the tables could have turned was after bishop d5. Remember this moment?
Yes. He needed to play c6 so badly.
Yeah, in many positions he missed to play c6, and once the knight was back on c6, giving up the b7 pawn, which he tried, but he tried it from b4. So knight e7 was an improvement because then the knight can come toward f5. It wasn't an easy position for black, but I thought that was a final attempt. And as you said, in many other positions, at least just try to push. Try to push c6. I was gonna try to show one of those moments. Even here, this taking didn't make sense. I think c6 was black's final good attempt. Apart from that, the first half of the game, which had more complex positions, what did you think, Nikola, were some of the most instructive moments? And you can click anywhere in the game.
Okay. First, quick shout out to Caracolambria. Thank you for the follow and worship. I wanted to ask you this. It never happened. I would appreciate if you would like to carry the sword in this channel, become a mod. But if that's
Oh.
okay, I would be honored if you do that. And while worship is thinking, I'm taking a look at the. Let me look here. Okay, thank you, sir. You have been. You were. You have a sword. Thank you.
Oh, congratulations, worship.
Um, I don't think Knight. Honestly, I don't really play Austrian Attack anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So I respect his mutual worship. You know
Hmm.
that. I don't think Bishop D3 is the right move here.
Hmm.
But let's. Can I just make one obnoxious observation, given these guys are stronger than I will ever come close to being?
Yeah, I'd love to hear it.
This guy is the black is playing King's Indian in Fifth defense.
Yes, kind of.
It's this looks ugly.
Mm-hmm.
This whole plan looks ugly.
Yeah, it's true.
Uh,
Yeah, and King H8 also felt like a
that's a
tempo
waste of
that,
tempo. Yeah.
yeah, it wasn't really needed to play that.
And this was the first chance to play, C6.
Yes, the first of many, it feels like. You're right, yes. Going back to C6 was just really awkward.
And this, there was,
Taking.
there's no reason to take this here. So,
Yeah,
all right. When you say rapid, how fast was it?
good question. It says it's the Nezhmetdinov Memorial in Kazan 2018. I don't know if anyone could look up what was the time control. It will be in the game file, the exact name of the tournament. But yes, it did feel like there were a lot of imprecise moves. But overall, what do you think is what made White's position so crushing? Except for like, yeah, the final moves, anything was winning. But what were some of the factors that made this position, made Black's position so bad from quite an early stage of the game? Because we are talking about move 15, 16 when things were already really pleasant for White.
I think this whole plan with knight, getting the knight on h5, it started going south here, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that, I mean, it's easy for me to say, obviously, I wasn't there, and I actually don't play Austrian Attack very often or ever.
The
So,
funny thing is, I was thinking the same. Why does Black allow e5? But then I looked it up, and that position here. So
mhm.
this position is still one of the main lines, and White most of the times castles kingside. Second most popular is e5. But after this game, maybe I'm just really biased after this attacking game. But I really don't understand if there's no straightforward counter punch after e5 for Black, then why why is that not the main line if it's so promising for White? So e5 is the second most popular, and after the trade, both d takes and f takes are played, I think, about equally with equal frequency. I really like this game. I will need to look into how Black can play this better, because from this game I would play this all the time for White.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that knight on h5, and then that bishop being boxed in, and that
Yeah.
pawn on e7 that became pawn on f6. It was very cramped position, and normal motive for Black here is to basically start pushing pawns on queen side, and that never. I mean, that wasn't even close to happen. Worship, I'm not 55, I'm 52, and I'm definitely into Grumpy Old Man's Club. You and I should find one on Twitch for chat.
Age is only a number. I think you guys are never getting into the grumpy old man's club. I'm sorry to break that hope and dream.
Thank you. That's very kind of you. But as they say, warranties have started to expire or expired a long time ago, so then it's starting to show. Anyway, that's not the purpose.
I looked up quickly the
Oh, and
reference.
Hotspot is 57. Okay, so there we go. There are three members of the Grumpy Old Man Club. Anyway, and we're gonna make Ben Feingold the honorary president.
I quickly looked up, by the way, not the Grumpy Club, which you guys are definitely not members of, but I looked up the position after e5 and this knight h5. So after e5, d takes, f takes. There are almost 400 games in my database for knight h5, which is the main move for black, and it was played by players like Daniel Dubov, Maxim Matlakov, Ivan Sharic, and Gawain Jones, who are like 2700 grandmasters. So I really don't understand where maybe it's then way later where it went wrong, but I'll need to look into this opening more because it looks very promising for white from what we saw in this game.
Yeah, this is actually a line I don't play for white, but maybe I should reconsider.
Yeah, I think after this game I want to play it, and I normally wouldn't.
Actually, it's funny. The line, this was, I'll say this, and I think I can be forgiven. This is a game in which I won against Hikaru, and Daryl Morey was actually in fifth defense, and it was the f3 bishop e3 queen d2.
Wow.
Yeah. Actually, I think it was not even on your stream. I think I was playing one of those sub battles, and it stayed on the screen although you and Alexandra stopped streaming together.
Oh, I do remember we were recalling the result, and we saw one of the we tuned in when it was one of the final positions. It was getting close to the end of the game. That is an amazing achievement. I need to see that game now in detail.
Let me put it this way: I don't. Well, let me put it. I'll be more than happy to have any victory in chess that involved Hikaru, but that wasn't a victory against Hikaru. That was a victory against a very mismatched pair of players. So, anyway,
it's still a victory against Hikaru.
I'll take it.
I would take it any day. I've never in my life beaten Hikaru, and I can only dream about it. And that includes, well, no, mate, I won a few games at Choker, so that's chess and poker. But if I'm dealt with a queen or two, I have two queens and he doesn't, well, great, I can win. And he also folded most of those. When he had bad cards, he folded. So I didn't get to beat him at chess. He folded before we got there.
Yeah, and to Hikaru's eternal credit, he was a very good sport about it, as he's a very good sport about any game I ever played with him.
Yeah.
And that particular game is on his YouTube, actually, which is very kind and very nice. So.
Oh, that's great. I'll need to check that out.
Okay. All right. So this was instructive, and I think you usually ask me around this time what I think about the game.
Yes. What do you think about the game and the session, apart from the fact that we all hate OBS and cameras in general?
I apologize to you guys, and thank you for people who stick with us and are forced to look at our photographs. That's not very professional. It's just it was either doing that or and I don't know. This literally is the problem that persists against two different computers. So, and the computer we're on is a brand new laptop that I don't know what's going on, and it doesn't work against built-in camera and doesn't work with any other camera. So anyway, to cut a long story short, thank you everybody. But the question is, this game was very instructive because it was actually a game full of chances and counter chances, because it was very understandable. Okay, I'm not being very coherent. I apologize. It was the margin of victory for white, although it was a crushing position, was not that big.
Yes.
Black had plenty of opportunities for counter chances that it didn't exercise.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a very interesting, very instructive game. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you so much, Nikola. And you did spot the chances that Black had about giving up the b7 pawn. Uh, then we analyzed the difference between why the knight on e7 is better than on b4, and all those positions where he should have played c6, and then after c6 he has better control of d5, and he can try to push b5 and a5. So I was really proud of you finding chances for Black too, even though Black's position seemed worse, but it wasn't that much worse up until that sequence of imprecise moves happened. So many missed chances, as you said.
And c6 here is a huge missed opportunity,
Hmm.
right, in this
Yeah.
position.
Yes.
And I would like to delude myself and say that I would have found it, but
I think you would have. It's a logical move.
yeah. And this knight c6 move
Doesn't
really
make sense.
doesn't make sense. No.
I think that knight c6 and bishop takes f3 are the two moves that I was like, really? These are grandmasters, and I know it's a rapid game, but I feel like grandmasters don't play those moves in rapid games either, or bullet games. It's just anti-positional.
Yeah. And white deserved to win.
Yes,
So
yeah. I think white maybe only made one imprecise move. That was bishop d5 because it gave back the chance for black to fight in the game.
yes, two places. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, worship. The queen h is dimmed. The knights are both dimmed. So okay. Well, if grandmasters can play like this, what are we to say?
Yes, we all make mistakes, but you made less mistakes today than the grandmasters in the game. So I'm really proud of you, Nicola. I'm really proud how
Thank
you
you,
found
Anna, that
the ideas.
you're always so kind. So, and thank you for sticking with the troubleshooting exercise and the whole 9 yards. That's very greatly appreciated.
It's the least, and I know that for next time you will find a way to fight against this glitch,
Yeah,
because it's really must be so frustrating. But I'm sure now you have some clues on what could be the problem, so at least
yeah.
that should help finding the solution.
No, it must be something that's basically in OBS because and that's something that replicates across OBS because it literally shows on every
Hmm.
two different computers, and that's the only thing that's exactly the same because
Hmm.
OBS keeps the settings.
Yeah.
All right, so Anna, thank you so much. That was wonderful. It's always I have to say that I always enjoy these torture sessions.
I'm glad. I'm glad if it's
I
possible to enjoy it.
also have uh, thank you guys for sticking with us even through technical difficulties and delays and everything else. And last but not least, I have a couple of announcements to make. We are going to have another match between Alexandra Kostyniuk and Anna Muzichuk. It's going to be a week from Saturday,
Hmm.
and we're looking forward to it. Uh, my best losses on Monday will be on Monday, and next week Anna and I will have another torture session at 5 p.m.
Yes, we
We
will.
also reached a huge milestone, which is we are now over 10,000 followers on Twitch, and we promised to do a sub simul for 1,000 followers to celebrate the occasion. I'll announce when that happens. It's probably going to happen one of these weekends, maybe even this Sunday. I'm actually traveling over the weekend, but I should be
Hmm.
back in New York on Sunday. So thank you guys. Thank you, Anna. And let's see, any recommendation whom we should raid? Who is live now? Well, you know what? I promised Kyu
Hmm.
Nemsko is, she's actually, let's see, she's training one of the PogChamps people.
Hmm.
Hikaru is with XQC. Bottas Live is with Andrea Bottas, who is actually playing chess. So I'm going to send you to Bottas Live. And please adjust your headphones because Andrea is streaming. And thank you again. And it was always good to see you guys here and looking forward to seeing you again very soon. And thank you for staying with us through technical difficulties.
Thank you so much. We'll be back next Wednesday and everything will run smoothly, I'm
Yeah.
sure. You did a
Thank
great job,
you.
Nikola. Regardless of the issues, you did great on the chessboard.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Okay. Let me make sure that this works. We're hosting what is live.